Only one warrior returned from Earth, and he refused to talk. The big ship Celestial Vanguard floated in space near the star Proxima Centauri. Inside the ship, Admiral Susan Miller could not stay still. Her hands gripped the metal rail on the bridge as she watched the small ship coming closer. "Is it really one of ours?" she asked, not turning away from the screen. Officer Ryan nodded. "Yes, Admiral. It's one of the pods we sent to Earth 3 years ago, but we're only getting one life sign." Susan's stomach tightened. One survivor. Out of 50 warriors sent to Earth. The Coalition had been fighting the Vex for 20 years. The Vex were tall, gray beings with technology far better than human tech. They took over planets one by one, never stopping their push through the galaxy. 3 years ago, the Vex had turned toward Earth. Humans had spread to many stars by then, but Earth was still home, the birthplace of humanity. When the Vex ships appeared in Earth's sky, the Coalition had sent their 50 best warriors back to the old world. Then, silence. For 3 years. Until now. "Bring him in," Susan ordered. "Full medical team standing by, and I want to speak with him right away." The small pod docked with a soft thud. Susan walked quickly to the landing bay, her heart beating fast. Who had survived? What had happened on Earth? Was anyone else alive? The door of the pod opened with a hiss of air. A man stumbled out. His uniform hung in tatters on his thin body. His face was dirty, with a beard grown wild. But Susan knew him. Jack Rivera. The man's eyes moved to her face. They were dark and empty, like holes in his head. He looked at Susan without really seeing her. "Jack, what happened? Where are the others? Did the Vex—" Jack held up his hand. The movement was sharp, like cutting through her words. "I can't talk about it," he said. His voice was rough from not being used. "I won't talk about it." Susan stepped closer. "You have to. You're a Coalition soldier. You have to report." "No." The word came out hard as stone. "I can't." The medical team moved in then, putting Jack on a floating bed. He did not fight them, but his eyes never left Susan's face. "Earth isn't what we think," he whispered as they took him away. It never was. Dr. Alan Peters had been working with damaged soldiers for 15 years. He knew how to get them to open up, to share their pain, but Jack Rivera was different. "Would you like to tell me about the sky on Earth?" Alan asked on the 5th day. "Was it still blue?" Jack sat on the other side of the table. His body was clean now, his beard trimmed. The medical team had fixed his broken arm and the 3 cracked ribs, but they could not fix the look in his eyes. "I'm not going to talk about Earth," Jack said. "Not to you, not to Susan, not to anyone. You understand this is against rules," Alan said gently. "Admiral Miller could put you in prison." A small smile touched Jack's lips. It was not a happy smile. "Prison," he said, like the word was funny. "That would be restful." Alan tried a different way. "The other warriors, were they killed by the Vex?" Jack's hands tightened into fists on the table. His knuckles turned white. "I said I won't talk about it." "Jack, we need to know what happened. The Vex are still out there. They're still a threat. If something on Earth could help us." Jack stood up so fast his chair fell over. "You don't understand. You can't understand. It's better that way." He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. His back was straight, but his shoulders shook slightly. "I came back to warn you," he said softly. "Just one thing. Stay away from Earth. That's all I can say." Susan read Alan's report 3 times. Then she called him to her office. "He hasn't said anything useful?" "Nothing at all?" she asked. Alan shook his head. "Just warnings. Stay away from Earth. Don't try to go back. Nothing about what happened to the other warriors or what the Vex did." Susan rubbed her eyes. She was tired. The Coalition leaders were pushing her for answers. They wanted to know if Earth had fallen, if the Vex had won. "Is he lying?" she asked. "No," Alan said firmly. "He's protecting something, or someone. He's afraid, Susan. Not for himself, for us." Susan looked at the star map on her wall. Earth was just a tiny dot so far away now. "We're getting strange reports," she said slowly. "Vex ships are pulling back from the Sol system. Some of our scouts say they're running." Alan leaned forward. "Running? The Vex don't run. From anything." "I know." Susan stood up and walked to the map. Something happened on Earth, something that scared even the Vex. A knock on the door made them both turn. Officer Karen Martinez stood there, her face pale. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said, holding out a data pad. Susan took it and looked at the screen. It showed the night video feed from Jack's room. He was asleep, moving restlessly on his bed. The sound was turned up and they could hear him talking in his sleep. "They never knew what we could do," Jack's sleeping voice said. "Earth wasn't weak. Humans weren't weak. We were just waiting." Susan felt cold all over. "Waiting for what?" she whispered. On the screen, Jack turned over. His next words were very clear. "The Vex woke us up. And now they're sorry." In his room, Jack Rivera stood by the window again. He could feel the ship moving through space, taking him further from Earth. It was better this way, safer for everyone. He touched the strange mark on his arm, hidden under his sleeve. It didn't look like a scar or a tattoo. It looked like his skin had been changed, remade from the inside. Jack thought about his friends, the other warriors who had gone to Earth with him, brave men and women who thought they were going to fight, to resist the Vex, to maybe die for their ancestral home. They didn't understand what they were really doing. None of them did. Going home. Jack closed his eyes. Behind his eyelids, he could still see what happened when the Earth humans found them. When they saw what Jack and the others could do. When they realized what skills the Star Children had learned out in the black. Useful, they had said. Very useful. Jack's hands began to shake. He forced them to be still. He had to be careful. He had to stay in control. The ship's doctors had checked him over, but they didn't know what to look for. They couldn't see the changes. But the changes were there. Earth had made sure of that. And if the coalition kept pushing, if they tried to go back to Earth, they would learn the truth. The truth that Jack had come back to warn them about. Earth didn't need saving. The galaxy did. Only one warrior returned from Earth, and he refused to talk. Part 3. "You did what?" Admiral Foster's face turned dark red as he shouted. His fist hit the table hard, making the cups jump. Susan stood straight, her hands behind her back. "I helped Jack Rivera leave the ship. He returned to Earth." The room was quiet. The 5 officers that Admiral Foster had brought with him looked at each other. They had come to question Jack. Now there was no Jack to question. "You have broken every rule we have," Foster said, his voice low now. "You will be removed from your position. You might go to prison." Susan nodded. "I understand." Foster leaned forward. "Why? Why did you do it?" Susan thought about Jack's last words, about the look in his eyes, about the strange mark on his arm that she had seen just as he boarded the shuttle. "Because I think he was right," she said finally. "I think we should stay away from Earth." Foster laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Stay away? Earth is our home world. The Vex are running from something there. Don't you understand what that means? Earth might have found a way to beat the Vex. We need to know what it is." "Maybe there are things we shouldn't know," Susan said quietly. Foster's smile disappeared. "You will be taken to the Coalition base, on Tau Ceti. You will be questioned. So will your officers who helped with this escape." Susan's heart sank. Ryan would be punished too. And maybe others. As they led her away, Susan touched the small pocket where she had hidden Jack's data crystal. 3 months, he had said. She hoped she would be free to watch it when the time came. Prison was not so bad. Susan had a small room, with a bed and a desk. She could read books on a screen. She could exercise in a yard with other prisoners. But she could not see the stars. And she could not contact anyone from her ship. Every day, the same two officers came to question her. They asked the same things. Why did she help Jack escape? What did Jack tell her about Earth? Why did she think they should stay away from Earth? Susan gave the same answers every time. She knew they didn't believe her. After 30 days, a new person came to see her. It was Dr. Allen, the ship's psychologist. Allen. Susan jumped up when she saw him. Are you in trouble too? Allen smiled a little. No, I'm here to help with the questioning. But really, I wanted to see how you are. They sat down at a small table. Allen looked around to make sure no one was listening. Strange things are happening, he said in a low voice. The Vex have sent a message to the Coalition. Susan leaned forward. What did it say? They want to talk. They want peace. Allen's eyes were wide. The Vex have never asked for peace ever. Susan felt a chill. Because of Earth? Allen nodded. They're afraid. They call Earth the awakened world now, and there's more. Our long-range scanners are picking up unusual energy from the Sol system. Earth is changing. Susan thought of the data crystal hidden in her room. 2 more months until she could watch it. They're going to send ships to Earth, she guessed. The Coalition. Allen nodded again. Yes. Admiral Foster is leading the mission. 5 warships. They leave next week. Susan closed her eyes. They shouldn't go. Jack warned us. What exactly did Jack tell you? Allen asked. The full truth, Susan. This is important. Susan opened her eyes and looked at her friend. He didn't tell me much, but he showed me. She held out her hand. On her palm was a small patch of skin that looked different, slightly shiny with a pattern like tiny circuits. He touched me right before he left, and something passed from him to me. Allen stared at the mark. What is it? I don't know, but sometimes at night I think I can feel Earth, like it's calling to me. Susan's voice shook a little. And I think it's calling to all of us. All humans. The next day, Susan was moved to a different room. This one had no windows, at all. The door was stronger. There were cameras in every corner. They took her clothes and gave her new ones. They looked through her hair, in her ears, in her mouth. They took everything from her, but they didn't find the data crystal. Susan had hidden it well. At night, she lay on her bed and looked at the mark on her palm. It seemed to glow faintly, in the dark. And when she closed her eyes, she could almost see Earth. Not the old Earth from the pictures, with blue oceans and green lands. This Earth glowed too, like her hand, like it was waking up after a long sleep. A week passed, then another. Susan heard nothing about the ships that went to Earth. No one came to question her anymore. Then, on a quiet afternoon, her door opened. A guard stood there with Dr. Allen. You're being released, the guard said. Susan stared at him. Why? The guard didn't answer. Allen took her arm and led her out into the hallway. What's happening? Susan asked as they walked quickly through the prison. The ships reached Earth 3 days ago, Allen said. His voice was strange, tight with fear. We lost contact with them after 12 hours. All 5 ships, gone. Susan stopped walking. All of them? Admiral Foster? All of them, Allen confirmed. And that's not all. There are reports of unknown ships moving through Coalition space now. Ships that don't match any known design. Earth ships, Susan whispered. Allen nodded. The Coalition leaders are panicking. They remembered what you said about staying away from Earth. Now they want to talk to you. They reached a small ship bay. A shuttle waited there, engines running. They want me to go to High Command? Susan asked. No, Allen said. They want you to go to Earth. Susan felt the blood drain from her face. What? Why? Because of that. Allen pointed to the mark on her hand. They think you can communicate with Whatever is there now, they think you can talk to Jack. Susan looked at the shuttle. She thought of the data crystal, still hidden in her old room in the prison. She wouldn't be able to retrieve it now. I don't have a choice, do I? She asked. Alan shook his head. I'm sorry, Susan. As she boarded the shuttle, Susan thought about Jack's warning, about how Earth had changed, about how the Vex ran away in fear, and now she was going there. Going to Earth. She touched the mark, on her palm again. It was warm now, almost hot. And for just a second she thought she heard voices. Many voices, speaking as one. Welcome home, they seemed to say. We've been waiting for you. Only one warrior returned from Earth, and he refused to talk. Part 2 weeks passed. Jack stayed in his room on the ship. He ate the food they brought him. He did the exercises the doctor told him to do. But he did not talk about Earth. Susan watched him through the security cameras. She saw how he moved around his room at night when he could not sleep. She saw how he looked at his hands sometimes, like they belonged to someone else. We need to try something new, she told Dr. Allen. One morning. High Command is getting angry. They want answers. Allen nodded. I have an idea. Jack keeps asking for access to the ship's library. He wants to read old Earth history books. Maybe if we give him what he wants, he'll give us something in return. Susan thought about it. Do it, but watch him carefully. Later that day, Jack sat in front of a screen in his room. His eyes moved quickly over pages about Earth's old wars. The screen showed pictures of soldiers from hundreds of years ago. Jack touched the screen gently, almost like he was touching the faces of the people in the pictures. They had no idea, he whispered. No idea what they really were. The computer recorded his words. In her office, Susan listened and felt cold again. Officer Ryan came to Susan the next day with news. The Vex ships are all leaving the Sol system, he said. All of them, they're running away. Susan could not believe it. The Vex don't run. They never run. They do now. Ryan showed her the reports from other coalition ships, and not just from Sol. They're pulling back from 3 whole sectors. Susan looked out at the stars. What could make the Vex so afraid? The Vex had fought the coalition for 20 years without ever stepping back. Now they were running. Have we intercepted any Vex communications? She asked. Ryan nodded. Yes. Our computers can't translate most of it, but 2 words keep coming up. Earth and mistake. Susan's hands gripped the edge of the table. Mistake, she repeated. They think going to Earth was a mistake. At that moment, her computer beeped. It was a message from the Coalition High Command. They were sending Admiral William Foster to the ship. He was bringing specialists to question Jack. They're going to force him to talk, Susan said quietly. Ryan looked worried. What if he doesn't want to because he can't? What if something on Earth changed him? Susan remembered Jack's words in his sleep. Earth wasn't weak. Humans weren't weak. She made a decision. That night, Susan went to Jack's room. He was sitting by the window as usual. They're coming for you, she said. High Command. They're going to make you talk, Jack. They won't be gentle. Jack didn't seem surprised. When? Tomorrow. Admiral Foster's ship will dock in the morning. Jack looked out at the stars for a long time, then he turned to Susan. You've been watching me, he said. You've seen the reports about the Vex running away. You know something happened on Earth, something big. Susan nodded. But you don't know what, Jack continued. You think the Vex attacked Earth and somehow Earth fought back. You think I'm traumatized, broken by what I saw. Aren't you? Susan asked. Jack smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. I'm not broken, Susan. I'm waking up. Just like Earth did. He stood up and moved closer to her. You need to make a choice. Right now. Either you help me leave this ship tonight, or tomorrow you hand me over to Foster and his team. Why would I help you escape? Susan asked. That's against every rule. Because deep down, you're afraid of what I might say if they force me to talk, Jack cut in. And you should be. Susan felt like the air had gone out of the room. What happened on Earth, Jack? Just tell me that. Jack shook his head. I can't tell you, but I can show you. He held out his hand. In his palm was a small crystal glowing softly. This is a data crystal. It has a recording on it. If I don't come back in 3 months, watch it. Not before. Come back? From where? From Earth, Jack said simply. I need to go back. Susan stared at him. You want to go back? After whatever happened there? It's where I belong now, Jack said, and for the first time since he had returned, his eyes looked clear. Certain. They met in the small ship bay at midnight. Ryan had helped, though he didn't like it. He had set up a maintenance test that would hide the launch of a small shuttle. This will end your career, Jack said as Susan programmed the shuttle's controls. Maybe. But something tells me we have bigger problems than my career. She finished the programming and turned to face him. You're really going back to Earth? Jack nodded. I have to. Why? What's there now? Jack looked at her for a long time. Then he said, the Vex thought they were invading a planet of scattered primitive beings. What they actually did was remind us who we really are. He touched his arm where the strange mark was hidden under his sleeve. Earth humans have been alone for centuries while the rest of us spread to the stars. They had to become different, to survive, to thrive. The Vex just helped speed things up. A chill ran down Susan's spine. What do you mean? Jack started to board the shuttle, then paused. When we arrived, the Earth humans looked at us, their star children, and they saw what they could become, what they should become. His voice dropped to a whisper. And they helped us change too. The shuttle door closed behind him. Susan backed away as the engine started. Through the window she could see Jack sitting at the controls, his face calm for the first time. The small shuttle slipped out of the bay during the maintenance test just as Ryan had planned. On the screens it looked like nothing more than a routine systems check. Susan held the data crystal in her hand. 3 months, Jack had said. She wondered what was on it. She wondered if she really wanted to know. In the morning, when Admiral Foster arrived and found Jack gone, Susan would face serious trouble. She might lose her rank. She might go to prison. But right now, looking out at the stars, she felt sure she had done the right thing. Somewhere out there, Earth was changing, and Jack Rivera was going home. Only one warrior returned from Earth, and he refused to talk. Part 4. The shuttle moved through space toward the Sol system. Susan sat alone in the passenger area. 4 guards watched her from a distance. They were afraid of her now, afraid of the mark on her hand. We're approaching the outer defense line, the pilot called back. Coalition ships should contact us soon. Susan looked out the window. In the distance, she could see the faint lights of ships. Coalition warships formed, a ring around the whole Sol system. They were not there to attack. They were there to keep something in. The pilot frowned. That's strange. No one is answering our calls. Susan felt a tingle in her palm. The mark was warm again. She pressed it against the cold window and closed. Her eyes, images flashed in her mind. The coalition ships floating silently in space. Inside them, empty rooms, empty halls, no people. The ships are empty, she said quietly. The pilot turned to look at her. What? That's not possible. There are 50 ships out there with full crews. Susan shook her head. Not anymore. The shuttle passed the defense line. No one stopped them. No one called to them. They flew on toward Earth. As they got closer, Susan could see Jupiter's giant form. Then Mars, a red dot in the distance. And finally, Earth came into view. It was not what Susan expected. The blue planet from the old pictures was gone. Instead, Earth glowed with strange lights. The whole planet seemed to pulse like it was breathing. What happened to it? One of the guards whispered. His face was pale. Susan touched her palm again. The mark was hot now, almost burning. More images came to her mind. Cities that moved and changed shape. oceans that glowed, and people, Earth humans, who were not quite human anymore. A voice spoke in her mind. A familiar voice. "Susan? You came, Jack," she whispered back in her thoughts. "What is this? What happened to Earth?" "Evolution," Jack's voice answered. "The next step." The Vex didn't know what they started when they came here. A new shape appeared in the shuttle's view screen. A ship, but unlike any Susan had seen before. It seemed to flow rather than move, changing its form slightly as it approached. "They're coming to get us," Susan told the pilot. "Don't try to run. Don't try to fight." The pilot's hands shook on the controls. "What are they?" "Earth," Susan said simply. The strange ship came alongside the shuttle. There was no sound, no feeling of movement, but suddenly the shuttle was inside the larger ship. The doors opened, on their own. "What do we do?" a guard asked, his voice high with fear. Susan stood up. "We go with them." She walked to the shuttle door and out into the Earth ship. The guards and pilot followed, staying close to her. The inside of the ship was strange. The walls looked soft, almost alive. They glowed with the same light Susan had seen on Earth. The floor moved slightly under their feet, like it was adjusting to them. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway. As it came closer, Susan recognized Jack. But he was different now. His skin had the same glow as the ship. His eyes were deeper, older somehow. "You're back," Susan said. Jack smiled. "And you came. Just as we hoped." "We?" Susan looked around. "Where are the crews of the coalition ships? Where is Admiral Foster?" "They're here," Jack said. "They've joined us, just like the 50 warriors who came to Earth 3 years ago. Just like I did." Susan's heart beat faster. "Joined you? What does that mean?" Jack held out his hand. The mark on his palm matched the one on Susan's. "It means they became part of Earth again. Part of what we always were supposed to be." He led them through the ship to a large room with windows looking out at Earth. The planet seemed even stranger, up close. The continents had new shapes, the oceans swirled with lights. "What happened to Earth?" the pilot asked, his voice shaking. "Earth woke up," Jack said. "Humans have lived on Earth for thousands of years, but they were never alone. Earth itself was alive, sleeping, but alive." He touched the wall, and it changed color under his hand. "When the Vex came, they used weapons we had never seen. Energy that changed matter at its deepest level. They thought they were destroying us. Instead, they completed a process that had been happening slowly for centuries." "What process?" Susan asked. "Evolution. Change." Jack smiled again. Earth, humans were already starting to connect with the planet, to join with it. The Vex energy just made it happen faster. Now Earth and humans are becoming one thing, a new thing. Susan thought about the missing crews. "And you want all humans to join? Even those who left Earth centuries ago?" Jack nodded. "We're all Earth children. We all belong here." One of the guards stepped forward. "And if we don't want to join? If we want to stay as we are?" Jack looked at him with sad eyes. "You don't understand. This isn't a loss. It's a gift. We are more now, not less." He held his hand out to Susan. "You felt it already, through the mark I gave you. You saw, through my eyes, through Earth's eyes, you know." Susan looked at her palm. The mark pulsed with the same rhythm as the planet below. "The Coalition is afraid," she said. "The Vex are afraid. They think you're dangerous." "We are," Jack said simply. "To those who would harm Earth, but not to our own kind." He led them to another part of the ship. Here, they found people. Some wore Coalition uniforms. Susan recognized Admiral Foster standing by a window. His eyes had the same glow as Jack's now. "Susan," Foster said when he saw her. "You were right. We should have stayed away. Not because Earth is dangerous, but because we weren't ready to understand." Susan looked around at the others. They all had the same peaceful look, the same glowing eyes. What happens now? She asked Jack. Now we go. Home, he said, all of us. And then we decide what to do about the rest of humanity. And the Vex. Susan looked out at Earth again. It called to her. The mark on her hand burned with longing. Do we have a choice? She asked quietly. Jack touched her shoulder gently. There's always a choice, Susan. But once you understand, once you truly see what we've become, I don't think you'll want to choose differently. The ship moved toward Earth, toward home. Susan felt the pull of it in her blood, in her bones. Like Earth was calling its children back. And deep inside, she knew Jack was right. Once she saw, once she understood, she wouldn't want to choose differently. Earth was waiting. Only one warrior returned from Earth, and he refused to talk. Part 5 years passed. The coalition leaders had built a new meeting room on their main world, Tau Ceti A. Today, 20 of them sat around a large table, faces tight with worry. The Soi, Edge planets are asking for help again, said Olivia Diaz, the oldest member. Her white hair was pulled back tightly from her face. They say more ships have disappeared. The room was quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. Earth is expanding, said another leader. They're taking our colonies one by one. On a large screen at the end of the room, a map showed the known galaxy. A red area marked Earth and the Sol system. Around it, a larger red circle showed the space that Earth now controlled. The circle had grown bigger every year. How many people have we lost? Asked a man at the far end of the table. 2 billion, Olivia said softly. Maybe more. The door opened, and a young officer ran in. Sirs, Earth ships have been spotted near our defense line. Everyone stood up, talking at once. Fear filled the room like a gas. How many ships? Olivia asked, her voice cutting through the noise. Just one, the officer said. A small one. It's sending a message. They say they have someone who wants to talk to us. The leaders looked at each other. Earth had never wanted to talk before. They just took what they wanted. Put the message on screen, Olivia ordered. The galaxy map disappeared. In its place was a face that many of the older leaders recognized. Hello, said Susan Miller. It's been a long time. Susan looked different. Now, her eyes had the same glow that all Earth humans had. Her skin seemed to shine from within. But it was still her. Admiral Miller, Olivia said. Or should I just say Susan now? Susan smiled. Just Susan is fine. I'm not part of the coalition anymore. Why are you contacting us? Olivia asked. Earth has never wanted to talk before. Things change, Susan said. We've learned a lot in 5 years. About ourselves. About what we're becoming. The screen changed to show Susan's ship approaching the defense line around Tau Ceti E. I'm coming to talk, Susan said. In person. I'm alone, and my ship is small. I'm not a threat. The leaders talked among themselves quietly. Then Olivia looked back at the screen. We will let you land, she said. But only you, and we will have guards. Susan nodded. I understand. Thank you. When the screen went dark, one of the younger leaders turned to Olivia. Can we trust her? Olivia looked out the window at the stars. No, she said, but we need to hear what she has to say. 3 hours later, Susan walked into the meeting room. 4 guards stayed close to her. She wore simple clothes, a gray shirt, and pants that seemed to move slightly like they were alive. Thank you for seeing me, she said. Why are you here? Olivia asked. There was no time for small talk. Susan sat down at the table. I'm here because we want to explain. Before we couldn't. We didn't know how to put it into words that you would understand. Now we do. We? Asked one of the leaders. You mean Earth? Susan nodded. Earth, the humans who are part of it now, all of us together. What happened to Earth? Olivia asked. What did the Vex do to you? Susan smiled again. The Vex didn't do anything to us, they just woke us up. Humans and Earth were always meant to be one thing. The Vex energy just made it happen faster. She held out her hand, and a small ball of light appeared above her palm. The guards raised their weapons, but Susan shook her head. "It's just light," she said. "Watch." The ball expanded, showing images. Earth as it used to be, then Earth as it changed. Cities that moved and flowed, oceans that glowed, humans with shining eyes. "We are becoming something new," Susan said. "Not just humans, not just a planet, something more. And you want all humans to join you," Olivia said. "Even those who don't want to." Susan closed her hand and the light disappeared. "At first, yes. We thought all humans were part of us, that they all should come home. But we've learned that isn't right. Some should stay as they are, separate, different. That's important too." The leaders looked at each other in surprise. "So you're not going to take any more colonies?" one asked. "No," Susan said. "We're stopping our expansion. That's why I came, to tell you that. And to give back something." She touched her chest and a soft light glowed under her shirt. When she moved her hand away, she held a small crystal, the same data crystal she had carried from the prison 5 years ago. "Jack gave this to me," she said, "before all this started, when he came back from Earth the first time. It shows what happened when the Vex invaded, what Earth did to protect itself." She placed the crystal on the table. "Watch it. Understand. And then, if you want, we can talk about the future, about how Earth and the Coalition can live together." Olivia picked up the crystal. "Why this change? Why now?" Susan stood up. "Because we finally understand what we are. Not just the next step for humans, but a choice, a possible future, not the only future." She looked around the room at all the leaders. The Vex wanted to destroy us, to take Earth. Instead, they helped create something new, something that could fight them, that could win. "And now?" Olivia asked. "Now we have pushed the Vex back to their home systems. They aren't a threat anymore. And we—" Susan paused. "We want to find our place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, as equals." She walked to the door, then turned back. "Watch the crystal. In 3 days I'll come back. Then we can talk about peace." After Susan left, the leaders sat in silence. Finally, Olivia held up the crystal. "Should we watch it?" she asked. They all nodded. They had to know. The crystal showed images that were hard to understand at first. The Vex ships arriving at Earth, their strange weapons firing down at the planet. But then, the planet fighting back. Not with weapons, with itself. The ground rising up, the oceans moving like they were alive, and the humans joining with their world, becoming something stronger together. The last image was of Jack, speaking directly to whoever watched. "We didn't choose this," he said. "But now that it's happened, we can choose what comes next. Earth isn't just our home anymore, it's us, and we want peace, not war." 3 days later, Susan returned. This time she didn't come alone. Jack was with her, and behind them, more Earth humans with glowing eyes. "We've watched the crystal," Olivia said. "We've seen what happened." Jack nodded. "Then you understand why I couldn't talk about it when I first came back. I didn't have the words. I didn't understand it myself yet. But now you do," Olivia said. "Now we do," Jack agreed. "And now we want to talk about the future, about how Earth and the stars can exist together." Susan stepped forward. "We're not asking you to join us, we're asking you to accept us, as we are now. Different, but still human." Olivia looked at the other leaders. They nodded, one by one. "We can try," she said. Outside the windows, the stars shone bright and clear. Earth was out there, changed forever. And now the rest of humanity would need to change too. Not by becoming part of Earth, but by learning to live with what Earth had become. It wouldn't be easy. But as Jack had said, they had a choice now, and they chose to try.